A dead woman walks through the door halfway through the movie, and suddenly, you realize everything you thought you knew was wrong.
You're alive.
This is Laura, the 1944 masterpiece that proved obsession could be more dangerous than murder. Before Twin Peaks had Laura Palmer, before Sunset Boulevard had Norma Desmond, there was Laura Hunt, a woman so captivating she haunts you even before you meet her. If you loved our videos on Double Indemnity and the Maltese Falcon, stick around, because Laura belongs right there in the pantheon of 1944, the year film Noir grew up, the most famous fake painting in cinema. That iconic portrait of Jean Tierney that hangs above Laura's fireplace, it's not a painting at all. When Otto Preminger fired the first director, Ruben Mamoulian, 2 weeks into production, he scrapped everything, including the portrait Mamoulian's wife had painted. Preminger had studio photographer Frank Powolny take a photograph of Tierney. They enlarged it to painting size and lightly dabbed it with oils to create brush strokes, pure movie magic. A photograph masquerading as art, just like Laura herself. Nobody believed in Laura, including its own studio. Fox chief Darryl Zanuck envisioned Laura as a cheap B-movie. Multiple directors turned it down, calling the script weak. Ruben Mamoulian only agreed because he desperately needed the money. From day one, Mamoulian battled with producer Otto Preminger. He changed sets without permission and banned Preminger from the set. The dailies were a disaster. After 2 weeks, Zanuck fired Mamoulian and installed Preminger as director. Preminger later recalled that Mamoulian poisoned the cast against him, telling each actor individually that Preminger planned to fire them. Only Clifton Webb remained loyal. Clifton Webb's career was dead until Laura resurrected it. Clifton Webb hadn't appeared in a feature film since 1925. At 55 years old, he was a Broadway song and dance man, known for his flamboyant mannerisms. When Preminger saw him performing in Noel Coward's Blithe Spirit, he knew Webb was perfect for the acidic columnist Waldo Lydekker. Zanuck violently disagreed. He wanted the young, sinister Laird Cregar and told Preminger that Webb was too effeminate. Get this, Preminger secretly filmed Webb performing a monologue from Blithe Spirit and showed it to Zanuck. The studio chief finally relented. "You can have Clifton Webb," he said. Webb earned an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor, but more importantly, Laura launched an unlikely late career stardom. The man who hadn't made a feature film in 19 years became one of Fox's biggest stars, the studio that sued its own star. Jennifer Jones, fresh off her Best Actress Oscar win for The Song of Bernadette, was Zanuck's first choice for Laura. But Jones's contract with David O. Selznick required Fox to submit scripts in advance for approval. Fox didn't. When Jones didn't report for work on April 24, 1944, Fox sued her for $600,000. The suit was eventually settled, and Jones later made Clooney Brown for Fox. But Jean Tierney, who supposedly didn't want to make Laura, became the face that launched 1,000 Obsessions, The Twist. Losing Jones might have been the best thing that ever happened to this film. A Dear John letter created cinema's most haunting melody. Otto Preminger wanted to use Duke Ellington's Sophisticated Lady as the film's theme. Composer David Raksin hated the idea. It had nothing to do with Laura's character. Preminger gave Raksin 1 weekend to compose something better. That weekend, Raksin's wife sent him a Dear John letter ending their marriage. Sitting alone on a Sunday night, devastated and inspired, Raksin composed the romantically bittersweet Laura theme. In one sitting, Johnny Mercer later added lyrics, and Laura became one of the most recorded songs in history, second only to Stardust. It's been recorded over 400 times. Here's the kicker, Laura wasn't even nominated for Best Score. The Academy snubbed one of cinema's most iconic themes. If you're loving these behind-the-scenes stories, do support our small channel, hit that like button, and let me know in the comments which noir fact shocked you the most. A gossip columnist rescued film noir history. Preminger delivered his cut of Laura, but Zanuck hated the ending. He ordered Preminger to reshoot it with a twist. The entire story was just something Waldo Lydekker imagined. It was all a dream. Zanuck scheduled a private screening. The projection room was nearly empty. Only 2 people sat in the back, gossip columnist Walter Winchell and his date. As the credits rolled, Winchell approached Zanuck. Big time, congratulations Darryl, except for the ending. I didn't get it. Zanuck told Preminger, "This is your success, I concede." The original ending was restored, and film noir was saved from one of the worst what-if scenarios in cinema history. Waldo Lydekker was based on the most feared critic in New York, Waldo Lydecker, with his venomous wit and walking stick, was directly modeled on Alexander Woollcott, the legendary New York theater critic who founded the Algonquin Round Table. Woollcott's pen could make or break Broadway careers, just like Lydecker's column destroys Laura's suitors. The production team photographed Woollcott's regular table at the Algonquin Hotel and built a replica on the Fox lot for the scene where Laura first encounters Waldo. Woollcott himself never saw it. He died in January 1943, while the novel was being adapted. One deleted scene told you everything about Waldo's obsession. In a scene cut after the film's initial release, and not restored until 1990, Waldo narrates how he transformed Laura's appearance. He describes selecting her hairdress, teaching her what clothes were becoming, and making her as recognizable as his walking stick and white carnation. The studio worried this obsession, a gay-coded older man, essentially creating his perfect woman, would offend World War II soldiers serving overseas. When it was finally restored in 1990, audiences understood Waldo's control over Laura in a whole new light. It's the Pygmalion story, twisted into something far more sinister, a heartbreaking tragedy that echoed through her career. Just 1 year before Laura made her a star, Jean Tierney's life was shattered. In 1943, while pregnant with her first child, Tierney made an appearance at the Hollywood Canteen to support the troops. Days later, she woke up covered in red spots, German measles. Her daughter Daria was born prematurely, weighing just over 3 pounds. The rubella caused devastating congenital damage. Daria was deaf, partially blind with cataracts, and severely mentally disabled. She was institutionalized for most of her life. Years later, a female Marine approached Tierney at a party and said she had broken quarantine to meet Tierney at the Hollywood Canteen. She'd had the measles, but just had to see her. The woman didn't realize she'd just confessed to destroying Tierney's life. Tierney's friend Howard Hughes paid for Daria's medical expenses for her entire life, but Tierney never recovered. She battled manic depression, received 27 shock treatments, and attempted suicide. Her autobiography was titled Self-Portrait. Laura Hunt became Laura Palmer. Fast forward to 1990. David Lynch and Mark Frost create Twin Peaks, and at its center is a murdered teenage girl named Laura Palmer, whose death drives a detective to obsession. Lynch and Frost named their character directly after Laura Hunt. In both stories, the investigation centers on a portrait of the dead woman, her diary, and a detective falling in love with someone who may or may not exist. When Roger Ebert reviewed Laura in his Great Movies series, he praised it as exceptional, even within a genre known for convoluted plots and arbitrary twists, the most underrated performance in film noir. Everyone remembers Clifton Webb stealing every scene in Laura, but Dana Andrews' Detective Mark McPherson is the film's secret weapon. Andrews plays McPherson with a quiet, naturalistic style that was revolutionary for 1944. The scene where McPherson sits alone in Laura's apartment, drinking, studying her portrait. It's one of the most erotically charged scenes in 1940s cinema, and there's not a word of dialogue. Zanuck called Andrews an agreeable schoolboy and didn't understand why Preminger cast him, but Andrews embodied the decent cop corrupted by obsession, the actor who should have been Waldo, and what happened to him. Laird Cregar was Zanuck's choice for Waldo Lydecker. At 30 years old and already famous for playing Jack the Ripper in The Lodger, Cregar was Hollywood's go-to villain, but Preminger wanted someone audiences wouldn't immediately suspect. When Preminger cast Clifton Webb instead, Vincent Price later recalled that Laird was personally devastated. On December 9, 1944, just 2 months after Laura's release, Laird Cregar died at age 31 from a heart attack following complications from crash dieting and gastric bypass surgery. Is Laura really noir? Noir scholars have been fighting about it for decades. In film noir circles, there's genuine debate about whether Laura even qualifies as noir. The film is too glossy, too fox, too high society. But French critic Nino Frank, who literally invented the term film noir, included Laura in his foundational group. What makes Laura noir isn't shadows or femmes fatales, it's the necrophilia at its core. A cop falls in love with a corpse. The woman he builds in his imagination has nothing to do with the real Laura Hunt. He's obsessed with an idea, and that's as noir as it gets. Joseph Leschel lit Jean Tierney like a Renaissance painting. Laura received 5 Academy Award nominations, including Best Director for Preminger and Best Supporting Actor for Clifton Webb, but the only Oscar it actually won was for Best Black and White Cinematography, awarded to Joseph Leschel. The play of light and shadow in Laura's apartment creates a dreamlike atmosphere that makes you question reality. That antique clock isn't just a MacGuffin, it's a twin. The ornate antique clock in Laura's apartment plays a crucial role in the film's finale. But there's only one other clock like it in the entire world, and it sits in Waldo Lydecker's apartment. Lydecker himself draws attention to it early in the film. Waldo narrates that there was only one other in existence. In Laura's apartment, in the very room where she was murdered, the matching clocks symbolize Waldo's control over Laura. When that clock becomes the hiding place for the murder weapon, it's the ultimate symbol of Waldo's possessiveness, destroying what he claimed to love. Laura isn't just a murder mystery. It's a ghost story where the ghost comes back to life. It's a love story where the detective falls for a dream. It's film noir, wearing an evening gown. It proved that 1944 was the year noir stopped being pulp and became art. And if you loved this video, check out our breakdown of Double Indemnity, the film that convinced Hollywood that murder could be sexy, and The Maltese Falcon, where nobody tells the truth and everybody dies anyway. Which classic noir should we cover next? Drop your suggestions in the comments. Subscribe if you haven't already. And remember, in film noir, nobody stays dead for long, not even Laura.